A story Democracy Now! Covered 5 months ago. On May 13th, former military intelligence sergeant Adrienne Kinne appeared on this program and talked about how she was personally ordered to eavesdrop on Americans working for news organizations and NGOs in Iraq.
Over the course of my time, as we slowly began to identify phone numbers and who belonged to what, one thing that gave me grave concern was that as we identified phone numbers, we started to find more and more numbers that belonged not to any organizations affiliated with terrorism or with militaries of Iraq or Afghanistan or elsewhere, but with humanitarian aid organizations, non-governmental organizations, to include the International Red Cross, Red Crescent, Doctors Without Borders, a whole host of humanitarian aid organizations, and it also included journalists.
That was Adrienne Kinne last May on Democracy Now! Last night, Adrienne Kinne and another military linguist appeared on this ABC News report.
This is the first time any of the actual intercept operators, the people who listen in and record phone calls on behalf of U.S. intelligence agencies, the first time any of them has come forward. Now, President Bush says they only listen to Americans if it involves al-Qaeda. These two say not true.
During her interview in May on Democracy Now!, Adrienne Kinne also revealed she saw secret U.S. military documents that listed the Palestine Hotel in Baghdad as a possible target, even though it was filled with journalists. In 2003, the U.S. military shelled the hotel, killing 2 journalists, Reuters cameraman Taras Pratsiuk and Jose Coso, a cameraman for the Spanish television network Telecinco. The military's maintained the shelling was accidental.
One of the instances was the fact that we were listening to journalists who were staying in the Palestine Hotel. And I remember that specifically because during the build-up to shock and awe, which people in my unit were really disturbingly excited about, we were given a list of potential targets in Baghdad, and the Palestine Hotel was listed as a potential target. And I remember this specifically because putting one and one together that there were journalists staying at the Palestine Hotel and this hotel was listed as a potential target, I went to my officer in charge and I told him that there are journalists staying at this hotel who think they're safe, and yet we have this hotel listed as a potential target. And somehow the dots are not being connected here, and shouldn't we make an effort to make sure that the right people know the situation? And unfortunately, my officer in charge, similarly to any time I raised concerns about things that we were collecting or intelligence that we were reporting, basically told me that it was not my job to analyze, it was my job to collect and pass on information, and that someone somewhere higher up the chain knew what they were doing.
Sergeant Adrienne Kinne last May on Democracy Now! And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
And welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the